All right. Hey, sustainability champions. This is Daniel Hartz, and today I am speaking with Niels de Fraguier, the co-founder and CEO of the Positive Impact Community, which is a group of positive impact businesses empowering a regenerative economy. On Earth Day, Positive launched a manifesto for companies to sign to advocate for systemic change in the food and drinks industry. The F&D sector has the potential to spearhead our transition towards a regenerative economy because of the many aspects it's involved in, starting from agriculture to supply chain, all the way through to packaging. So Neil and the team at Positive are encouraging companies to support the important transition to a new food system that prioritizes human and planetary health. Really looking forward to learning more about this. Neil, thank you very much for joining us today.
Good evening, Daniel. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us and showcasing Positive tonight.
Of course. And where are you taking the call from?
I'm currently based in the south of Spain, in Andalusia, in Granada, originally coming from France, but relocated over there to be closer to nature, to the mountains, and the beautiful surroundings that we have around in Spain.
Beautiful. South of Spain is very, very nice. I've only been once, and I can't wait for everything to open up and be able to travel again to visit. So today, I'd really like to cover three primary topics. Number one is the moment you realize this is what you wanted to do. From there, really the work that you're doing with Positive and the impact that you're having. And then just to summarize what we can all do to be more environmentally friendly in our daily lives. How does that sound?
Just amazing, Daniel. Let's get started.
Excellent. And for those of you who are watching this conversation, you should be able to type into the chat or into your comments any questions or comments for Neil through the little chat bar, and I'll do my very best to read those and answer them as they come in. So that's enough for me. And moving over to you, Neil, what was that moment when you realized this is the work that you wanted to do?
That's a pretty good question and pretty big one. I have to say that I've always been driven by purpose and impact in general. My key focus has been really on empowering individuals, focusing a lot on youth, women, and minorities. From my early career, I have a background in sustainable development, project management. Started working with a couple of organizations, including the United Nations, the Council of Europe, some local authorities as well, social businesses, and I had the chance to really discover, cultural barriers, local realities, and what the world is really looking like. So going, a bit deeper than what we can see in the media and in the news, and going in the fields. I've learned so much from people sharing their basically daily lives, daily struggles when it comes to, economic empowerment, to having a voice that can be heard, making sure that people could collaborate, the access they had to funding potentially, and really kind of better understanding what was behind the sustainable development goals. So the SDGs, for those of you who are not aware of, it's basically a framework that has been set up by the United Nations with 17 main goals. That ranges from education to climate action to partnerships, and really, looking at that angle and looking at what the SDGs meant in the field, and understanding that we needed a more systemic approach. So not ticking boxes when it comes to impact, but really looking at the big picture. What can we do to foster partnerships? How can we foster co-creation? How can we create network effects with people collaborating, working together, sharing their knowledge, once again, having this global perspective. So really, using this global networks that we have the chance to have these days, but using this local knowledge as well, and always going back and forth and helping each other. And we've got the chance to meet with Stephen, my co-founder, and really get on this exciting journey to support change maker businesses. So I've always been convinced that business was a driving force for good. The key question was, how far can we go? Because there are a couple of existing communities, movements that support businesses, but what we believed that we needed a radical shift going beyond sustainability and really focusing on highest level of regeneration, redistribution, and equity, making sure that we could tackle the deeper roots of the system and what we're facing at the moment. So it's been, I would say, like a personal life journey that has been, that I've experienced throughout the years, and that have led me to be, where I'm at the moment, and working with the amazing team that we have at Positive, and with the amazing companies that we are supporting.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, that's a big story, and clearly there's a lot of pieces to it. And before we go into each little one separately, I'd love to just take a quick step back and understand what the current situation is that you're looking to solve. So you mentioned kind of this idea of think globally, act locally, which I really like. But before we go into that, what would you say is the current situation that you're looking to solve? I know that just taking a look at your website, that the idea of greenwashing is something that you're really looking to tackle. So what are some of these other ideas, or even greenwashing, that you're looking to solve?
So to start with, clearly today, we have a couple of options. There are a couple of rules that we can follow. We are facing a societal and climate crisis. So when it comes to societal crisis, it's all about social injustice, from Black Lives Matter to certain movements, basically raising around the world about political contestations and all the rest of it. We see that our system and economic system is pretty much based on the roots of colonialism and slavery. So going back to a long time ago, and I mean not too long ago, but still, we are still deeply rooted into that, and these problems are persisting. So that's one. We are facing a climate crisis. Everyone is aware of that. We are facing a narrative that is really focused on the problem rather than looking at the solutions. What I believe, and that I often say, is that we have all the pieces of the puzzle. It's just about how do we make people connect, and how do we host this ecosystem where people can bring their solutions, bring their thinking, bring their local realities, and co-create together. So that's really where we are at. And what we are trying to solve with Positive is basically to, rather than tackling the symptoms and saying that companies should only be sustainable, is really looking at the roots of the system and saying that we should build a new economic system that can be empowered by changemaker businesses. So our key focus is on small and medium enterprises and mid-sized companies. The reason behind that is that we believe that they have a huge opportunity to really shift the way our economy works. They represent more than 80% of the business population. They're usually underserved, so it means that they have to hire consultants and pay high consultancy fee, or get access to some resources that are not that inclusive. And then, for sure, as you've mentioned, Daniel, something that we're really tackling and looking at is greenwashing. So today, any company, from oil, gas companies to a local changemaker company, is using the word sustainability. But the meaning behind that is always different, and it's always up to interpretation. And what we see is that people are more and more educated about what sustainability means, where we need to go, what is required from businesses, and they're asking for more. So greenwashing is not an option anymore, and we need to empower consumers and business leaders and their teams to make sure that they understand what is the narrative they need to use, and making sure that they are as transparent as possible about their limitations, but also their achievements. Because to become regenerative, this is a long journey. There are so many steps, and you need to look forward about what are these barriers, and making sure that your consumers are aware of that, and that all of us can also help this company, getting better and reaching the highest levels of impact.
Yeah, I think those are really important, and it's easy to say we're sustainable because here's, at least on Instagram, there's this one meme or image floating around of a bottle which says this is a paper bottle, and then they took off the paper and there was just a plastic bottle inside. So, I mean, yeah, the outside, it's a plastic bottle covered in paper, so it doesn't really count as a paper bottle, but I suppose you can say that there is paper in this bottle.
Yeah, I've seen that. I was shocked as well. And I think that's actually a really good metaphor of what greenwashing is basically putting a fig leaf or cover on the activities that you lead to show a better side of yourself or of your company rather than really showcasing the reality. And it doesn't mean that everyone needs to be perfect. It just means that we need to acknowledge where we're at, what we need to achieve, what steps we need to take to get at the highest level of impact, and make sure that we bring everyone on this journey transparently and openly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. And there's you mentioned the word sustainability. At the same time, you're mentioning this word regenerative, and that's I understand a very important aspect of the work that you're promoting. So what exactly does the word regenerative mean?
So when we talk about sustainability, and the definition as such is being able to sustain the way we do business, it's basically keeping at the same pace, keeping the same methodology, and in a way doing business as usual. Before we become sustainable, we need to be regenerative. And regenerative means that we give back more than we take, because we've reached a threshold now that is where resources have been extracted, people have been exploited, and where we have a negative impact on our planet overall. The Earth overshoot is happening, and is coming like quicker and quicker every year. There is some calculation about how much resources we are extracting from our planet and from nature. At the moment it's around August. If we continue the way we do, that's going to be in July, June, and so on. So what we need to do is to put back this overshoot day to the 31st of December. And this is about regenerating and putting back more into society, into nature. And as soon as we're there, and that we use one planet a year, then it's going to make sense to be sustainable. So it's really about looking at that and making sure that we can restore our ecosystem. And it goes, once again, it's really important. Like, there is also quite often this misconception of what sustainability means. Sustainability is not only about the environment, and this social part is such an essential one that we often tend to forget. But behind the food we eat, behind the products that we buy, there are people, there are local farmers, there are local suppliers that also need to have living wage, that also need to feed their family and to take care of their neighborhoods and their communities. So that's really, we need to step back and have this 360-degree approach of what impact means and what regenerative businesses should do.
I think it's a really good point. And sometimes it's easy to forget that people are actually at the heart of this whole sustainability thing, so to speak, because ultimately people are the ones who are creating the impact. And so if we're going to undo that impact, and if we're the negative impact, if we're going to create positive impact, that has to be people driven. And so especially working off the thesis, so to speak, of the idea that businesses can be the positive change, then that's all driven by humans and people. So that means that people really do need to benefit, or else there is no reason for them to really move forward with it. There's a term that you've said as well, which I'd like to hear more about. So just to finalize that point, the other thing I wanted to mention is that you said overshoot day, and that's really cool. The term regenerative, I actually personally never considered it within the context of overshoot day, because you're absolutely right. I think actually COVID, if I'm not mistaken, kind of moved our overshoot day back a couple days. I don't remember the actual amount.
I'm not sure about the day exactly, but it pushed it. But let's be honest, like last year, it's going to come back to the value like back in 2020 or even before. But definitely COVID has had an impact. But once again, COVID has been like a slowdown of our economy. That wasn't a choice, but that was basically a result or an aftermath of the situation. So the really important thing to do is to make policymakers, businesses, consumers committed to make sure that we push this day back to December, rather than facing some global challenges and pandemics that are also somehow related to the impact that we have on our planet.
Yeah, fantastic. As far as the term change maker business, I think a change maker business is really who you're looking at and who you're talking about when you're referring to your community and really the companies that you want to join the community. So who is, or what is, a change maker business?
First of all, as we're talking like to your community tonight, I think it's important to mention that anyone can be a change maker, and it's a personal choice. And being a change maker is about taking positive action for the world and making the world a better place. It can be for your community, for your neighborhood. It can be on a local, national, or global level. That's really important. What a changemaker business is to us is a business that has a purpose at the core. What we mean by purpose is that when you create a business activity, the first principle and the first goal shouldn't be about making profit. The first goal should be about solving a social or an environmental issue. And as soon as you start your business idea to solve this issue, then you can make profit. And that's relevant. We are not about making businesses not profitable. We just need to make sure that the profit and the value created is redistributed. But the core of it is really to look at the impact we have. Concrete example, one of our members, Aduna, a superfoods brand based in the UK, producing basically superfoods out of baobab fruits. Andrew was the founder, spent a couple of years in Africa. He realized when he was in Ghana that basically baobab fruits were falling down on the ground and that no one were picking them. It just came back to the UK and realized that basically there was value out of it, and that from these baobab fruits we could solve issues. And he started with this social issue of this local community in Ghana that was deprived, with women who couldn't access employment. And he said, would you be happy to be paid to pick up these fruits, produce these superfoods over there? And he created this business out of this social issue of a community, facing poverty, lacking access to resources. And then from that, he built this business. And that's what we mean by changemaker business. It's businesses that are solving the most pressing issues of our time in a local or global level, but that are really tackling that at the core of everything they do. And when you have a business that has purpose at the core, it means that you're much more resilient as well. And it's a never-ending journey in a way that every day you're putting energy towards the same goal. You bring your team, you bring your partner, you bring your consumer behind the same objective. And that is what is missing in most of the businesses that we see these days. When profit is the driver, it doesn't bring people together. It doesn't create a passion. It doesn't bring compassion and empathy with people. And that's something that we were looking at. And for us, the future of business is what we call the positive impact companies. And those companies have this 360-degree approach, follow a model that we call the positive compass, with purpose at the center, as it needs to be at the core of every single changemaker business.
So with the positive impact community, what's the idea behind creating this community? You mentioned at the beginning this idea of kind of thinking globally, acting locally, creating a network. So is that really the crux of it, is creating an area where changemaker businesses who are focused on really solving social challenges that are connected to environmental challenges, et cetera, to get together and find the best way to solve some of these issues?
Yeah, we believe that the future of business is regenerative, and that's where we need to go, and that's the answer. So the idea is to host and facilitate an ecosystem of changemaker businesses that can access networking community. So making sure that you, Daniel, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, can mingle, network, but also share solutions and pain points with others in the same sector, but also in different ones and in different regions around the world. So learning from each other, co-creating, partnering, and that's a key pillar of it. And making sure that you don't work on your own, but that you learn from each other, and that you're always keen on sharing this knowledge and helping each other. Second part is really about the tools. So we provide our members with different toolkits, the Compass methodology to assess where they're at with their business, what is the impact they're making, how they can improve, where they can learn, what are the best practices in the space. When it comes to food and drinks, for instance, like a company that joins Positive get access to, what are the best packaging options, what are the best sourcing options, what are the best, ingredients that you can use, how to avoid food waste, and it's really, practical steps, jargon-free, making sure that we are as inclusive and accessible as possible. We also host and organize events, making sure that we bring expertise and experts to answer practical questions of our members. We also have co-creation processes, so we host a space, a safe and open space for all our members wherever they are and their teams, to make sure that they can share ideas, that they can co-create together solutions based on their experience, based on their local realities, and that together they can thrive. And then what we do, as you can imagine as well, and it's really important to us, is to make sure that we showcase solutions. As I said in the beginning of this discussion, today the narrative is really about the problem. So the problem is there, we acknowledge it, we accept it, and we share also about scientific facts. But in the meantime, we also need to look at the people that are giving their energy and dedicating their life to solve these issues, and making sure that these solutions are highlighted, that consumers can get access to it, and they can find the best brands, the best products that are speaking to them, and really helping our nature and our people to thrive. So the idea is really to make an ecosystem that is as inclusive and accessible as possible, ensuring that changemaker businesses get everything into one place, with a very inclusive offer where everyone can participate and learn together.
That's super cool. I mean, I think that sounds like such a valuable space for people to get together and basically get as many resources as they possibly could have to facilitate being a change maker, and to really encourage them to, I suppose what you're doing is you're providing all the resources and tools that a change maker business could need in order to continue doing their business and expanding and growing and making a bigger impact.
Exactly. It's you have to imagine that as soon as you enter the community, wherever you're at, so if you're a changemaker business and you have this purpose at the core, we invite you to join. And wherever you're at, we help you on this transformational journey to make the right decisions, to have access to the right networks and the right tools, to become, a positive impact company and really reach the highest standards of social and environmental impact. And this includes, learning from each other, but also accessing these tools, these events, and making sure that you can really onboard on this exciting journey. And that rather than being on yourself and kind of spending resources, time, and energy into research, into consultancy or whatsoever, that you have everything in one place, and that in some ways you save time, and that you increase the potential of your
company. And what about moving over to something that you recently launched, which I mentioned in the at the beginning? On Earth Day, you launched this manifesto, which is called the Positive Food and Drinks Manifesto. What is this manifesto all about?
So we're calling for a new food system. Positive is working across different industries, but what we've identified as a critical piece is basically the food industry. Mm-hmm. A couple of figures: 1/3 of the food that is produced worldwide is wasted. The food and drink industry represent more than 34% of greenhouse gas emissions. 800 million of individuals are malnourished. More than 2 billion are obese. 50% of the habitable land is used for agriculture. And so on. So what we've seen is that basically there is a need for the industry to shift, to become better, to get access to all the tools and resources to really accelerate this change. We've also seen a lot of emerging local businesses, basically getting into the market, producing on a local level, supplying in a local level, and really building these local ecosystems. So the idea behind this call for a new food system is really to call all businesses that are in the food and drinks industry to become better using our resources, but also having this ambition of becoming regenerative businesses. So we've identified 12 drivers, and I'm guessing we'll share the link also like after the live, but it's basically 12 drivers ranging from health and nutrition, climate action, food security, food waste, local partnerships for change, plant-based food, new foods, good packaging, regenerative agriculture, distribution, shifting from supply chains to supply webs, urban farming, and so on. And basically we give kind of our vision of how it should look like, but we also highlight once again, based on our DNA, some way showers that are already pioneering the space. So it will never be enough. We need to do more, but we feel that these companies are leading by example. In food waste, for instance, Olio, that is a UK-based company that has an app. It's all about food sharing. You can share, pictures of the food that you have, like the leftovers, and share it with your neighbors. Then when it comes to regenerative agriculture, Kiss the Ground, and the impact fund that it released is pretty exciting. So we have a couple of companies that are highlighted, making sure that when people go through the call to action, it's not only about aiming big and aiming for this vision, but it's also about practical actions that are already taken. And then the follow-up of that is that we are about to release a tool also on food systems, making sure that any changemaker businesses can have access to our toolkits that is jargon-free and that really tackle all these 12 drivers, making sure that they get practical actions that they can take and really solve these challenges and be part of the community.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think the food and drinks space, it really encompasses, as you outlined, it encompasses so many different things. And I think from an individual point of view, if we kind of move away from business for a moment, just from an individual point of view, most people eat at least once a day. Certainly in the Western world, that's very common, 3 meals a day. And these are decisions that we can make every time we go to a store or to a restaurant. That's a decision we can make in terms of how we can actually, what we eat and the impact. I suppose from a business side, there's a lot of interesting opportunities there because where you source your ingredients and the packaging that you use. I mean, you listed all of these, there's 12 elements to it. And so there's just so many opportunities to really make a change. And so for people who actually, or companies that sign this manifesto, what is that signature, that I suppose that agreement actually stating?
So we have already more than 20 organizations that have signed up, including yours, Daniel. So thanks for that again.
Of course.
The idea behind the manifesto is really to make sure that we get more visibility with this call to action in terms of what is needed and sharing this vision and committing to it. And as soon as organizations are signing it, what we do is that we also have discussions with them about ways that we can help them. So it's not only about putting a logo on there and looking nice. It's about, all a commitment can become a practical commitment where actions and roadmaps can be implemented. So any business that signed the manifesto and the pledge is then invited to connect. We have discussions with them as well to look how we can onboard them as part of the community and support them on their journey. So it's basically just the first step of everything that's ahead and everything that companies can benefit from as positive members.
Sounds very, very good. And so as far as, I'm just actually seeing a comment here from Pris. I should be able to show the comment. There we go. She says that she is going to join other change makers in this world and use the network to share ideas. So that's fantastic to see that we're creating this web already and moving things forward. From the point of view of actually leaders that you admire, or things, different books, or perhaps resources or videos, there's just so many things, podcasts. Are there any that you can recommend, anything that can be a great place to start in terms of this idea of changemaker businesses, or just anything in general that really inspires you to continue your work?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many resources out there. For sure, you have so many books about sustainable impact, regenerative business. So first one I would recommend that might look a bit different than what we've talked about, but that is really important and key to me, is From What Is to What If, from Rob Hopkins. That is basically about the power of imagination. And you might ask me why I'm talking about this book where we talk about sustainability or impact or regeneration, but I think that one of the key to solve most of the challenges that we're facing is to be creative and to foster imagination. And basically, creativity is not enough anymore. We need to be open, and I think that nature can help a lot as well. So when you go into nature and you immerse yourself, surrounded by natural places, resources, whatsoever, then your imagination is just flourishing. And I think that imagination is such a key for us to co-create and to innovate. It doesn't mean that we don't have the solutions already. It just means that we need to be innovative in a way that we build partnerships, that we activate this local change. So I think that's a big one. For people that are interested about economics in general, there is for sure this book from Kate Raworth, The Donut Economic, that is basically a new model that has been widely spread around different cities in Berlin and Amsterdam and others. That's a model that we've actually been inspired by for the Positive Compass methodology and our 5 Ps. So we believe that the donut is also part of the compass. So Kate Raworth is an amazing leader. Johan Rockström from Stockholm Resilience Center, we identified the 9 planetary boundaries, and basically how do we get into overshoots. So that's an interesting one. It's more science-based and more technical in a way, but that's something really interesting. And then there are a couple of leaders in the space like John Fullerton, that is really about regenerative business and regenerative principles. That might be interesting for you to have a look at. At Positive, we've also got our own handbook that we call the Positive Handbook for Regenerative Business. That is for any change maker that wants to either build a regenerative business or regenerative organization. It's a 200-page book that gives you practical insight, and that is basically collecting all the resources out there from Kate Raworth, Fullerton, Rockström, but also plenty of other thinkers in the space, and really making sure that you get practical insights, case studies of companies that are taking the steps forward. So those are resources that I would recommend. And then I think it's really important to also, being part of these networks, because being part of this network means connecting with other change makers that have access to different resources, but that have access to practical experience. And I think that the key focus should really be on what's happening in the field. What are you facing as a change maker business, as a change maker, with your consumers, with your team? Like, what are the pain points that you're facing? What are the key takeaways that you can share? And that's also what we're aiming for, is making sure that this resource, this knowledge is used in a way that benefits everyone, rather than staying in-house where you work on your own. And I think that actually the best source of knowledge is people, is networking and talking to each other. And I always say that it's worth reaching out to people. You never know what can happen, but even if there is no agenda, connecting and linking up with others is always helpful, so you can kind of map out the space and see when an opportunity arises. When is the good time for you to partner with someone else, or to ask for help, give support, and be in service of each other.
I think that's a really good point. I really like this idea of what's really cool about the community that you're creating is it's specific. It's for companies and people who are working on something very specific, which is this idea of being a change maker, as opposed to just a business networking kind of community where it's a wide range of businesses. What you're doing is really focusing on a very specific type of company. It sounds industry agnostic, but at the same time, the fact that everyone's a change maker within the community means that I think there is this sort of common, I imagine the challenges and the questions that people will have, there will be some commonality, just because you're focusing on impact. And that's already something that I think many kind of, shall we say, standard businesses may not necessarily be focusing on first and foremost. And so from that point of view, it would be fantastic to really have this opportunity to just network with other change makers. And you never know, there, as you said, sometimes a collaboration comes out of nowhere from a place where you never thought. And maybe you're in the food waste side of the business, and all of a sudden you find either a restaurant or a positive impact hotel, and there's a way to work together on reducing the food waste and bringing more business. So it's really, really cool, because you become very aligned from that point of view on finding additional ways to make more positive impact.
Yeah, and to bounce back on this idea, something that is to me really important, and to us is also for people to be vulnerable. So we don't always have the solutions. The key thing is to share the pain points, to share the struggles and the achievements. And at some point we'll find solutions. Not all the solutions exist yet when it comes to, measuring really precisely your impact. It's something we're working on. but by lifting up and linking up together, then you have this common sense of belonging, and you understand all your journey is similar to others, and you share the stories. It's all of the founders and their teams that we have within the network have common stories, not always, but they have common similarities, and these similarities are really building this sense of belonging, making sure that people do not only connect as business leaders or business employees or whatsoever, they connect as individuals. And this human perspective is such a critical one, making sure that people can open up, they can bring their whole self to the community, and making sure that we can face challenges. It's all right. The key question is, how do we get there, and how do we support each other? And if we do that, then everyone wins from it and benefits from it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as we start to wrap up here, what would you say that, based on the experience that you've seen as far as how the community functions, and maybe some of the ideas being thrown around, or just, I mean, you've written a 200-page book on ways that companies can be change makers. What can people do if you're a change maker business owner? What can people do to, first of all, make more impact in their business, and then second of all, to make more impact using their business?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you're kind of splitting question into two, because I think we often look at potentially the number of consumers we get, but not necessarily the end impact. So I think the first step for any business is really to take a step back, and I think that's something that is common to individuals and businesses in general. Is, how do you look at the big picture? It's not how your business affects the environment. It's not only about how your business affects people. It's about how your business affects the world in general. And when I say the world, it can be a local community, it can be the world by itself if you operate globally, but it's really about you step back and you look at different pillars. That's the reason why we built the Positive Compass. So I didn't have the chance to share that much about it, but it's basically 5 P's. The idea behind it was to be as inclusive as possible for anyone around the world, whether sustainability background or not, to understand what it means. At the center and at the core, purpose. We've discussed about it. Then up north, we have planet. Planet is understanding right relationship to nature. So it's for businesses and individuals to question how their business are impacting natural resources, not seeing the earth as a resource, but rather, as an opportunity to do business and to give back more than we take. Then on this part, we look at people. It's all about elevating human potential, employee participation. Or how does your team is leading, or does your team lives and breathe by the purpose that you created? Down south, we look at partners. It's about how do you create a redistributive value for everyone? Or do you have healthy supply chains? So those are good questions to ask yourself as well as a business leader. And on the west part, places. Places is all about honoring community. So as a business, how do you operate in the local level? What is the impact you have? How do you consult people that are directly affected by your activities? Potentially your consumers, but also your employees and all the people you work with. So just with this framework of 5 P's that is pretty straightforward and easy, it helps you to step back and to look at different directions that you have, making sure that you focus on this 5 P's. That's the first step. And then what follows is for sure more granular approaches with different tools, different resources that you can find out there, also within the community, and looking at potentially net zero, zero waste, good packaging, diversity, leadership, supply chains, transparency, technology, social and environmental impact, local level, and all range of topics. But I would say to start with, taking a step back, looking at the big picture, also consulting people that are within your business. So not only as a CEO or founder or as a team member, kind of concluding like basically where you're at by yourself, but also asking your suppliers, your partners, your clients, and your team members. And then from that, you get a first overview, and then you can become more granular and looking at what are the main pain points you face. And I think that's something that is really strong, is both for business leaders to ask consumers, but also for consumers and customers at the end of the chain. When you go to a supermarket and you're a customer, if you find a product and you're questioning the impact of the company, I would always recommend to reach out to these companies and say, where are you at? We know this solution exists. We know there is positive impact community. We know there is this amazing initiative. Why don't you join them? Why don't you work on that? Because by doing that, we have this bottom-up approach, and companies should care more about the customers. And if customers are sharing this feedback, showing the importance that they give to the product they consume, then we can make real change. And the change is not going to happen only with this top-down perspective of business leaders producing the right product. Is also going to happen from consumers and customers at the end of the chain asking for change.
I completely agree with that. And that's one of the, I think, I always say, people like to say that capitalism got us into this mess. And I'm a big believer that if capitalism got us into this mess, then capitalism definitely can get us out of it, because I think that it's just a change in consumer demand. That's all it is. And businesses have the opportunity to create that demand through creating fantastic products and services. But also, I think, we have the internet. Consumers are so intelligent and savvy these days. It's easy to Google things. Even while you're standing at the store, you're looking at a product. If you just spend 30 extra seconds, you can quickly Google it and see, what is this product really made of? Who are who is the company, and who's behind the product? And then you can make a decision right then and there whether or not you want to actually move forward with purchasing it. And that, I think that's what you're referring to in terms of kind of like that bottom-up approach, where you're really, as an educated consumer, you really can vote with your wallet and make, I think, a very big impact. Especially because it kind of, from my experience, what I'm seeing is it's not, if I'm choosing to buy a very specific kind of product from a change maker business, let's say, that's not the only point that we're looking at. There's more to it, because what ends up happening is that most likely I'm going to tell someone about it because I'm kind of a sustainability nerd and I care. And so I'm going to want to share, hey, check this out. This comes in like this cool compostable packaging, blah, blah, blah. So then I'm also educating the people around me, and it becomes a networking and ripple effect. And so it's much more powerful than just making a quick, purchasing product. Someone else may see that you're buying it and they think, oh, I was thinking about that. Maybe I should go get it too, because I was kind of shy or embarrassed. And it's really important. Sometimes you don't even see the impact that you're having based on those choices.
Definitely. And to sum it up as a global idea, I think, it's really the idea that everyone can be a change maker in different ways, and you don't need to be a business leader to make things happen. You can also be a consumer. You can have, your daily work on whatever it is. But then as soon as you cast a vote by paying with your credit card, with your cash at the supermarket, or going to local farmers or going to local suppliers, and then if you make this choice, you can influence change by influencing your peers, as you say, Daniel, but also by showing the interest that you get. And we've seen that with COVID, and coming back to the food and drinks sector, we've seen that people have increased their consumption of local products, local veggies, local fruits during COVID time. And that's something that we need to keep, because farmers are relying on that, and that we need these people to continue working on producing this food that is valuable, that is much more healthy for ourselves. And to do so, we need to keep buying their products rather than going back to other alternatives that we've been using in the past and that we're getting used to. So that's where the power is. And COVID has been showcasing that when people put their money and their choice and their vote in some ways into local products, it helps people that had this impact at the core of everything they do, get maybe an easier situation that helps them also increase their impact. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, and where everyone can play a role.
Yeah, I really like that idea that anyone can be a change maker. It doesn't necessarily need to be a business leader. And going back to this idea of any change maker businesses or any business leaders or even employees, I suppose, who are interested in finding ways to be more of a change maker and really turning your business into something that's more impactful, just going to your website and seeing that compass, because those 5 points really clearly outline how someone can become a change maker or take the current change making that they're doing to the next level. And so if someone becomes a member, are these tools and resources, because you have a membership on your site, so if someone becomes a member, are these the types of tools and resources that people have access to?
Yeah, actually, I invite everyone that is attending this call now to go to our website. We have a section under resources called Toolkits, where we have an example of the net zero tool that we are giving for free to anyone. Our big ambition at Positive is for our businesses our members to become net zero by 2030, to really be pioneers. So we've decided that we needed to democratize the access to this tool. So we give it for free. You can go on our website, download it, and then you get an highlight, or it showcases kind of the type of tools that we're providing. And then you can see, all the other tools are equivalent in some way. So this is just one. We have others, on zero waste, on circular models, on diversity and good packaging, food systems, as I mentioned, and many others that are in the pipeline and that are available for our community. But yeah, that can be a good example for you to have a look at the type of content that we produce. And once again, tools are just part of the offer.
Fantastic. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's a little banner at the bottom there with the website. So is that the best place for people to go if they're interested in learning more about the work that you're doing, or becoming a member, or signing the manifesto?
Definitely, they can go to our website. Feel free to visit our website, either to get in touch. You can either book a call with us directly, so we have a one-to-one chat and intro, so we can get to know you a bit better and where you're at, what are your questions, your pain points, or we can support you. You can also fill out the form to become a member if you're sure that, or more interested, or you already got all the information you needed. You can apply to be a member, and then we're gonna have a call as well. So that at the end we're gonna meet in person, or at least virtually. And yeah, you can learn everything about Positive, find our handbook, find some of our toolkits, what is our vision, the purpose that we have, the model that we are developing, the members that we have on board, the 140 plus businesses that are already part of the community. And yeah, pretty much everything. So feel free to either book a call, fill out the form to become a member, contact us as well if you have questions. We are always happy to hear from people that are purpose driven and committed by the same topic. And more we are, better we will be. So that's a real opportunity for us to connect and move forward.
Fantastic. Well, Niels, thank you very much for your time. This was fascinating. I love this idea of creating a community of change makers. So thank you very much to Niels de Fraguier from the Positive Impact Community for joining us today to talk about the importance of networking and really getting together to share ideas and having basically a community of individuals and companies that are supporting each other to continue making a positive impact. So for anyone who's interested in learning more or becoming a member of the Positive Impact Community, please feel free to go to makeapositiveimpact.co. And if you go to the website's really nice to look at, by the way, so even that is just a good reason to go. But at the top, you'll be able to see membership, and you can learn about their membership program. And also, if you click on food and drinks, you can sign the pledge to empower a more regenerative food system. So, Niels, thank you again very much for your time. I love the work that you're doing, and I think it's a very important step to connect everyone so that we can all make, there's a phrase, I believe it's an African proverb, which is, if you'd like to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's exactly what you're creating, is the ability for companies and people to go far. So fantastic. Thank you very much for your day, for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.